Hey, Slapdog! The Brainiacs are ready.
Welcome into LeatherBrainz. Your host, Slapdog here, and we have a fun-filled episode for all you ladies and jennies out there in the Brainiac community. I am joined here today by a full crew. We got Scotty Del Rey and Alan Casanova Castro, and today we're going to be giving you the NFL news, of course, because that's what we always do. We're providing you with the headlining news so that way you can stay up to date with what's going on in the NFL. And then we are going to round out the show with talking about the NFC South. That is the last team or division, in the NFC that we have not covered. So we're going to cover that briefly as well. Give you our thoughts and opinions on the NFC South. Scotty, it's great to have you here. Alan, we noticed you were gone last week.
My bad.
How are you doing, little tyke?
Good. I'm doing very well. I'm happy to be back. NFL season, college football started this last weekend. I'm jacked. Was playing golf on Saturday and I felt a chill while I was outside and saw some leaves blowing. So it was like, we're ready to do
Football's
this shit,
on the
baby.
horizon. That is.
Shit.
Scotty, he didn't bite on the little tyke thing.
Yeah, seems like he doesn't care.
Yeah.
We were
trying to decide if little tyke is angering or should piss somebody off. Or someone
upset someone. Be
not for me particularly. Maybe other people.
Okay.
But I generally,
that's what I said.
I'm generally stupid, so you could say whatever you want.
We were testing it out. Like some people say, like, "Hey guy, how you doing?" Or like, "Hey buddy," and I called Scotty a little tyke, and he was like, "I don't know about that." And then I was like, "Well, let's test it out on Alan and see how he feels." So,
I like this.
Yeah, I wanted to roll it out and kind of just get a feel for it. It doesn't roll off the tongue very easily. I had to really force the little tyke to come out. So
it's really
little tyke.
It's really close to a couple slurs too. So
it is.
You really have to articulate yourself well.
Yeah. You could also use a slur. If you want to use a slur on me, that's fine. However you want.
I appreciate the fact that you're allowing me to do so. However, my own moral compass is
fair.
Steering me clear.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
We know the second the recording stops, you're going to say all sorts of slurs.
Well, and Scotty's on edge. Like Scotty, as before we clicked record, Scotty is on edge
in a bad way.
In a very bad way.
Are you asking me? I thought Hunter was going to explain it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Scotty. Why are you? What's going on in your life that's got you so ruffled of the feathers?
Nicotine withdrawal is real. I finally was told by my doctor I'm not allowed to do nicotine 50 billion times a day, which is fair.
Did
and
he
I was
put you on any
expecting
meds?
that. No, not yet. I have further testing that needs to be done, but he said in the meantime you should probably stop. Doing 40 Zins a day. And I said, all right, I guess. You're the doctor.
Oh, what a buzzkill.
I know, but
literally.
I was telling Slaps, I did not believe addiction was really a real thing. I've quit many things. I quit smoking at one point in my life. I quit drinking, like no problems. But this is really fucking me up.
I'm going to have to say,
it's fucking me up
of all the things you quit, the drinking one affected me the most because when I golf, then it's just me drinking and you're just like, well, how's everything going? I'm just like, can you take a shot with me? So we can loosen up, and you're just like, well, just hanging out, putting my lip pillows in.
Now he can't even do that, which is that's problematic.
Yeah.
Where do you have you
I'm gonna have to get
thought of any other vices to like?
I'm running out of vices.
You really are.
What you should do is go to the doctor and be like, it's this or meth.
That's what I was gonna say.
Well,
like
it's
threaten cocaine,
it's
meth,
Zins or meth. You pick, doc.
At the end of the day, he's just advising, so I could ignore him if I want to, and I might.
You should probably listen to your doctor.
Well, we'll see.
What do they know?
Life is only so long, so you might as well enjoy it.
Sure, you might as well speed it up.
I'm gonna try and get through. I'm gonna try and get through the initial shittiness of not doing nicotine, which is way worse than I expected.
What day are you on?
We'll see how it goes.
Day what?
3, I think.
He's in the weeds, man. As soon as we got on pre-recording, he's like, look, he goes, I'm a little on edge. He's like, I'm on nicotine withdrawals, so depending upon what's said in this episode, if I blow up,
if you guys talk about Dan Campbell or Kyle Pitts, I'm gonna freak out.
Well, I hate to tell, I did put some Kyle Pitts snippets in here,
like
so
this.
I'm mentally preparing you for the onslaught that is about to come.
Cool, I'm ready.
Okay, well, let's get started. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. This is I think our entire. You know what I think is happening is I think Shedeur Sanders is taking the place of Aaron Rodgers. I think that's kind of what's happening. Like Aaron Rodgers has historically over the years been the headline in the offseason, and so far it feels like Shedeur has certainly taken the throne, at least in this offseason in that regard. So the former Bengals pro wide receiver TJ, oh my gosh.
You don't know this one? Oh,
no. Can you say it for me?
Yeah, TJ Hushmanzada.
Yeah, thank you. I would have butchered that really badly. He believes this is. I'll just keep going. He believes that Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski set up Sanders to fail by playing him with backups that are going to be cut during this last Saturday's preseason finale. This is a quote from TJ. From my assessment, they don't want controversy. We know what Flacco can do. Why is Flacco starting the game? We know what he can do. So if you're trying to figure out who you're going to play in case Flacco gets hurt, whether it be Gabriel or Shedeur, let them split the game. Snoop Huntley is, and later did get cut, and you let the two battle it out, is what he said. And then he went on to say, to me, it was like, wow, you put him in with guys that are going to be on the street. They're all getting cut. Everybody Shedeur played with, they getting cut. You didn't give this man, being Shedeur, a fighting chance to compete. He went into a gunfight with 2 knives. You're going to lose that every time. And to his credit, Sanders went 3 for 6 for 14 yards and took 5 sacks against the Rams. But really, when I read this whole thing, I much like Scotty when his nicotine withdrawals, I saw red. I was so angry reading this because I'm so tired of it. Like, maybe in the world of the NFL, maybe Shedeur's just a mid quarterback. Like, maybe that's just the truth. The guy was drafted in the 5th round. So perhaps he's not a starting quarterback. Maybe he's just a backup quarterback. And that's just the reality of the situation. But to insinuate that the NFL is out to get Sanders and is looking to make him into a bad quarterback, and like all these narratives about like, oh, Shedeur is just like, all these people are trying to hurt Shedeur. No, maybe the reality is they're just not good. Why would the Browns intentionally try and hurt Shedeur's name? They drafted him. They are the people who are responsible for him and his development and his play. They want the best out of him. They drafted him with the hopes of being a diamond in the rough, somebody that could be, maybe potentially be a starting quarterback for them. Why on God's green earth would they try and hinder that in any way, shape, or form? So I think TJ, whatever the hell his last name is an idiot. And that is the stupidest thing I have ever read in my life. And that's how I want to start this show out.
I like this. Scotty, you ready? Because you're also edging.
I am edging. I'm edging so hard. But no, I don't really have a ton to say about this because to me, it's obviously dumb because what quarterback that is trying to prove they deserve a spot on a team isn't playing with mostly guys who aren't going to make the team. Like, I don't know if you know this. When you look around you and you see, okay, I don't know if he's going to be on the team. I don't know if he's going to be on the team. And then you look at the mirror. I don't know if you're going to be on the team. That's the point of the preseason. That's why we're doing this whole exercise. So you're not going to be out there with the ones or often even with the twos. Yeah. You got to go prove that you belong, and you have to do that. It's difficult. I saw Joe Burrow do the same thing in this preseason where they said, Joe Burrow, we're not going to start slow this time, so we're going to keep you out there for a lot longer than we have in the past. And he's playing with like the 4s and the 5s on this team, and it looks terrible. But guess what? He's getting reps, and that's the whole point of the preseason. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is you see what you want to see. I think Shedeur Sanders is kind of I don't know like how to necessarily position, but it's almost like a political thing. It's almost like
it's got to be
your thoughts on Shedeur are you're either this way or that way, and I think a lot of people still view that, and so it's like it's got a lot of like animosity one way or the other for it, and I think a lot of it obviously stems from Dion, and people thought of Dion a certain way, and I think that's what people are trying to like draw comparisons to, and then you have the draft and like, oh, the NFL's setting him up, they're kind of blackballing him so he doesn't get drafted. That's why he didn't go into the 5th round. It's like, where's like the accountability of the person, of the individual that's actually delivering the results? And also, I mean, they're practicing all week. There's a reason why certain people are in certain spots was how they practiced all week. And is he showing any development or improvement? I don't know. Like he had one really good preseason game, and everybody points to that and be like, see, look, he can do it. And I'm going to be honest, he looked pretty good in that preseason game. And his college stats are really good too. So it's like, there's something there, but I guess the NFL will find you wherever you are. Like if you're going to be playing or if you're going to be starting, like the NFL will make it happen. Now, are the Browns probably stupid? Yeah. Like I think time would say that they're probably pretty done with a lot of things. Like they, maxed out a quarterback that, was spending too much time at Massage Envy. And then you have now you drafted Dylan Gabriel, who's 5 feet tall. And then you have Shedeur Sanders, who has maybe questionable interviews. I don't know. Like, I'm really not sure what they're doing overall. Like, my thing for the Browns is if you weren't sure on any of these quarterbacks, just don't draft any of them and just start Flacco and then save it for the next go round. Just be like, hey, you know what? We'll figure this out next year. Let's stuff our roster with guys that will like boost the team rather than having this like really like congested quarterback room now that we don't know what's going on. My opinion is I think it is a dumb conspiracy to think that anybody's self-sabotaging one singular individual to prove what point exactly?
That's like my question.
What point are they trying to prove? That Shedeur is not very good and they shouldn't have drafted him? Like, why would they do that to themselves? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And I know I put it on Twitter, but this is almost akin to the Chiefs the NFL wants the Chiefs to win. Why would they want the Chiefs to win? How does that help them? They would want the Cowboys to win. If there's any team in the NFL that would boost the NFL's ratings overall, it's the Cowboys. It's one of these teams on the coast that it's not the Chiefs in the middle of the country, one of the smallest markets and like one of the smallest fan bases. Like if you don't count the bandwagon that's currently attached to it, like that the longevity isn't there. I think you see what you want to see and it fills whatever story you want to tell. That's why you believe what you want to believe. And I think the same thing is true with Shedeur Sanders.
I agree. And like that's the overarching question at hand is like, why would they self-sabotage themselves over one player that they drafted in the 5th round? And that's why I have a lot of issue with this entire thing. Like, it's stupid and it doesn't make sense. And for a former NFL player to say that is just mind-boggling to me. And it's like, what narrative can you concoct in your stupid brain? You probably have CTE if you think that that's a reality. Yeah. Now, if you're doing this for the headlines and the media, which is probably the realistic choice as to why this is all being spewed out, okay, I get it. I don't agree with it, and I think it's terrible, and I think shame on you, but I would understand that more than if you actually legitimately believe that they're trying to self-sabotage
Not to get on some like philosophical political rant, but I would say this country right now is at a time where it's easier to point the finger at something else than to like take accountability for like what actually happened. And it's probably he just sucks. And that I think people don't want to say that. They're like, oh shit, it's this or it's that. And we do that with our own teams. People that like really love their quarterback till the end of time, they're like, well, it was the line play, it was the play calling, it was this, it was that. It's like, okay, or maybe he just sucked. Maybe guys just suck sometimes. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Well, let's move on here. There have been 3 signings, gentlemen, that I'd like to briefly bring up. Of course, we have Scary Terry in the headlines right now. The Savior is staying home. He signed a 3-year extension worth up to $96 million. Oh. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I think we all kind of saw this coming. Obviously, the Commanders need Scary Terry. He's been with them forever. Everybody's been saying, hey, let's keep this guy around. He's been part of the franchise in the bad days, and now we're in the good days, and he still adds value. 3 years doesn't surprise me. That's kind of the sweet spot that I was kind of anticipating given his age. But congratulations to him. We also have Amari Cooper, one of the top wide receiver free agents in this current free agent market, has signed a 1-year deal with the Las Vegas Raiders, which I don't love that landing spot. I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. I think there's some other teams that need a wide receiver. I was really excited. Obviously, Amari Cooper's story, he was with the Bills last year. He got traded to the Bills. We thought, okay, there's an opportunity for him to be the wide receiver 1. It was mid-season, so we could maybe write it off to trying to learn the playbook and the schemes and all that, or we could maybe say that he isn't nearly as talented as perhaps he was in years past. However, he was one of the top free agents that were currently available, and to go to the Raiders, as somebody who is a Raiders offensive stand this year, I'm here for it, but there were some other teams that I think could have maybe utilized a wide receiver maybe more than the Raiders.
Yeah. So go ahead, Scotty.
No, I mean, I think the Raiders offense is looking better and better, and that's great for them, but their defense is going to be pathetic, and you're going to see Amari Cooper could be the wide receiver 1 in all of football in the history of mankind, and they're still going to lose half their games by double digits.
Yeah, I think fantasy-wise, maybe Slaps, this is the direction you were coming from, is like fantasy-wise, if you want to own a piece of the fantasy football Raiders offense, Going to be really good. I think it's going to be really good. Brock Bowers, Genty, people are very high on. Geno Smith is obviously capable. He's probably more capable of a quarterback than they've had in recent memory.
Yep.
How dare you slander Gardner Minshew like that? But continue.
Well, I do actually. I don't want to interrupt you, but just to throw this out there, would you on this Raiders team rather have Derek Carr from his prime with the Raiders or Geno Smith right now?
Oh, Derek Carr.
Because I see them pretty much similarly.
I would rather have Geno Smith solely because Pete Carroll's there.
I'd rather have
and they have rapport.
Derek Carr pre-injury when he was on MVP pace.
Okay, well that
is the Derek Carr that I want. That I in my mind that I see when I close my eyes and I imagine him.
I just see eyeliner everywhere,
like
all over the walls.
I think about him all the time. This is okay. I mean, Amari's getting old. I think he's going to a team that drafted him. There's some familiarity with like maybe some exact level. I don't know if anybody's even there that drafted him.
That was a while ago.
It's like 2015. I don't know. I think this is just a veteran roster signing more than it is like super impactful player. I think he's going to teach some of these guys how to play. But yeah, to your point, I think the Raiders offense is going to look really good. So that's what I was saying. If you're going to own the fantasy side of their offense, great. If you're trying to own a piece of the team, I think you go to Scotty's look and it's probably going to look kind of like the Bengals to a lesser degree. Obviously they don't have that firepower, but it's going to be that like they're going to put up points, but they're going to give up a billion points. And it's going to,
well, I mean, we talk about how bad their defense is. I think this is going to be a sad comparison, but I'm going to do it is like, look at the Bengals offense last year. They had to be everything. And I think you're going to largely see something similar with the Raiders this year of just, they have to perform. And will they? Probably not at the level that the Bengals were, because obviously the talent is different. But at the end of the day, that offense is going to have to attempt, like it's going to be an offensive shootout, and they're going to have to play catch-up ball, and they're also going to have to try and keep them in games. So I think that owning, for fantasy purposes, a piece of the Raiders offense is exciting. Trey Hendrickson, gentlemen, he finally got a deal done with the Bengals. I had to change the show notes because when I had there were some rumors and speculation that the talks had reignited between him and the Bengals. Obviously, that has now come to fruition. They signed him to a 1-year deal worth close to $30 million, bringing him a pay raise of about $14 million. So he's going to stay with the Bengals again this year. And however, it is worth noting, Hendrickson is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent right after this season. So he's going to stick around. The Bengals obviously need anything and everything on the defensive front while we keep that train rolling. He stays home.
Yeah.
Which is good for the Bengals, good for him. And
this is a great compromise because the big concern here was that obviously Hendrickson had all of the rights to be like, I'm not staying around unless you guys fucking pay me. Like he definitely earned that. He was totally in the right there. But the concern was he was like, I'm not taking anything less than a 3-year deal. And at his age, he might not find a home at all. So I think it worked out great where he could stay with the Bengals. He could stay with this team. They're competing hopefully at a high level this season. And next year you can figure it out. But I do think that this was the right move for him and for the organization.
Well, and the other thing too is, he was being touted as a potential trade candidate, and there was conversations around that. And I think that kind of lends credence to your point, Scotty, is were teams willing to sign him to a multi-year deal? And it seems like probably not, because that's kind of what happened is he went and shopped around. His agent was like, hey, are you interested in this shiny toy? And they're like, yeah, for maybe a year or two. And it's like, nope, you got to sign a 3-year. And they're like, no, thanks. And so I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's where the Bengals were high off their ass. Like they were the asking price for him was going to be insane, and then and then the asking price, then you have to go sign him. Mm-hmm. Like nobody's going to want to do that. Like I guarantee you they're like zero. So like, all right, well, let's just keep you for a year before you hit the open market, and then we'll just do this then. Like we'll handle this then with other teams. So
yeah,
I mean, I think this makes sense for him. I know he wanted to be a Bengal. You could see it. Like he has a good relationship with the team, and that's where he wanted to be. So happy they're able to do it. But I think this kind of now puts a lot of eggs in the basket for this season, which already looks a little shaky for them. Yes. So I think the Bengals, like, we talk about windows opening and closing. Like Bengals had like a window, and they're getting further and further away from that window. And you just don't know when you're going to be able to like capitalize on it again. So a lot of questions for the Bengals teams.
100%. Another defensive lineman, one that is rather large, being Desmond Watson. He's the lineman who, if anybody is not aware, he was drafted this season, weighing in at a large amount. He's currently at 450 pounds, and he is not allowed to suit up and or play until he loses more weight, according to the Buccaneers. So he cannot even practice until he loses some more weight. Alan, do you have a little bit of an update on this?
Yeah, I've been following this one closely. If you caught the episode, Scotty and I were talking about other things you could do if you lost all that weight with all of your skin.
I think squirrel suit came to mind.
Like a squirrel
you could
suit.
turn your flab.
Yeah, or you could be the parachute for like a funny car if they needed to slow down. Like there were options for him on the table, and we were rooting for him. The Bucs have cut him, so now he really can't practice because now he's not even on a team. So that's where this story ends. I don't know if anybody's going to pick him up. I mean, at 450 pounds, they weren't even letting him practice. So I don't even know if that was like a medical concern. I will stay close to this story, and I will get to the bottom of this. I'm going to do some digging and figure out like if we can't get him signed to another team, but we're still rooting for him and rooting for his weight loss journey.
Do you think Ozempic was on the table? Like, and so you look at the entirety of the situation. Like, hey, you have 4 months to lose X amount of weight. Why not try Ozempic? And like also, like at that weight, like the Biggest Loser comes to mind. Like those people are losing like 20, 30 pounds a week. Right?
I'm guessing if he did Ozempic, I would say like his biggest benefit is that he's basically a house that you can't move. And if you lost all that weight quickly, I can't imagine he would stay very strong. So then you just have this big thing that can't do anything and is very weak.
Yeah, but at least you could make if you can't practice, there's no way you're going to make the team.
Yeah.
So like you should be doing everything within your power to try it and practice so you can make the team.
My concern is, do you think they were like, you need to lose weight because you're not fast enough, you're not agile enough, like there's no way you can play? Or is it, do you need to lose weight because you being on the practice field as like Baker Mayfield is a danger to everyone? Because if you just tip over, like
I think he's a danger to himself, and they don't want a player like having a heart attack and then that going into the headlines of like this player had a heart attack when in reality he's just not healthy.
I still think somebody in the NFC East should sign him just to stop the tush push. Like, you're going to have to play the Eagles twice. Just be like, all right.
You make a new formation, and it's just called the sledgehammer.
Just put him right over the
comes
center.
out. Yeah.
Just be like, good luck. And he doesn't even have to push. He just kind of lays down. You're just kind of like,
everybody pushes him.
Yeah.
Just like a battering ram for the
reverse,
like SWAT
reverse
teams.
push.
Like Snorlax.
But I will provide more updates. I will figure out where this story ends. But right now it ends with him not on a team.
Okay. Well, there's another story I want to talk about, and that being Micah Parsons. So this one is kind of interesting. It actually, I'll just kind of go into the weeds here. So for those who have not been following the Micah Parsons saga, here's a short synopsis. Micah, he's vying for a long-term contract, and it seems as if the Cowboys owner and general manager, Jerry Jones, has been playing hardball. So Micah he'd stated that he had some back issues and he was laying on the trainer's table during the last preseason game. However, they made him go get an MRI, and Brian Schottenheimer, the head coach, had said that the MRI came back looking just fine, kind of insinuating that Micah Parsons is essentially full of shit. Now, this matters because if Parsons sits out without having an injury designation, he's slated to lose $100 million for each game that he sits out. So it's looking like an injury as a negotiation tactic for Parsons is not coming to fruition and will therefore hurt his wallet. Now, there has been the obvious acknowledgement that Parsons has requested a trade. He does not want to play for the Cowboys, and it has been rumored that some teams, namely both the Packers and the Falcons, have offered an immense haul for him, including multiple first-round picks, and the Cowboys have stated that they do not want to move him. In fact, a fan even jested to Micah Parsons as he was walking through the tunnel during a preseason game, and the fan had said, "Come to the Falcons," in which Micah Parsons has responded by making a phone call signal with his hands. So, Jerry Jones has even implied that he would essentially tag Micah for the next few years, meaning he's locked to the Cowboys. And this is all to say that, is this, in your mind, is Jerry just leveraging media attention to keep the Cowboys in the conversation? Does the old adage, all PR is good PR myth hold some ground here? Or is the ground starting to crumble around AT&T Stadium?
I lean toward It's just business. It's sort of like, in the like presidential campaign season, you get all the Republicans on stage or all the Democrats on stage at the same time. They all just start screaming at each other and they hate each other for that little bit of time. But then you get into the general election and they're all best friends. I think that's what's happening here. I think they're fighting, they're trying to position to be in a better spot, but at the end of the day, Micah knows that Jerry's got the option to just basically chain him to this organization for at least a little bit in the future. And Micah knows that it's only going to hurt him to not go out there and dominate. And he knows that this team has seen success on the field. So I think he's going to fight. They're going to claw, whatever. And then we're going to see it where everything's going to be fine. He's going to get on the field, whether it's on a franchise tag or whatever. And maybe he's not there for the next 5 years, but I think for the next year or two, he'll be a Cowboy and it'll be fine.
It's really interesting. We had this, we were talking about this a year ago and how this was going to be a problem for the Cowboys because CD wasn't under contract, Dak wasn't under contract, and Micah wasn't under contract. And we said, who's the odd man out here? And obviously that came to fruition and it's now Micah. I don't think that was the right call. I think that if I was to go back and do it again, I had publicly said, I think it should be Micah and CD, and Dak should be the odd man out. And I don't know if you agree with that, Scotty, but now we're seeing it all come to fruition. We saw this train coming from a mile away last year and had a lot of conversation about it, and now here the train is approaching.
It's typical Jerry Jones. This is what Jerry does. Everyone is like the person staring into their crystal ball that can tell Jerry a list of all the things he's got to do. And he will still wait until, he's the procrastinator in chief. He will wait until the very last possible second. And it often screws them. It often costs the organization more money because they're not, signing people when they can, and somebody else resets the market somewhere else. And it screws the Cowboys. But this is just typical Jerry. And I think in this particular situation, you're going to see it work out relatively fine. I don't think Micah Parsons is going to sit out for half the season and lose millions of dollars and it's not going to blow. I think it's really just going to be something that's in the headlines for a little bit and then it sort of blows over. Maybe Micah sits out for a small period of time, but eventually he's going to be on the field. It's going to be fine.
You think he won't hold out all season long?
No. I think it only hurts him to do that. It really does. I mean, at the end of the day, you might not like the Cowboys, but the best thing that you can do as a player is demonstrate that you are at the top of the game. And the great thing for Micah, he is at the top of the game right now. So anytime he's on the field, it is a billboard to every other team saying, look what I can do, pay more for me, and convince Jerry to sell me. And he's not going to be able to do that sitting on the sideline and, not collecting a paycheck. It's just not feasible to do for the whole time.
Okay. Let's pivot over and talk about the Saints quarterback situation because the Saints are the only team that have not announced their starting quarterback for this season. It's between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, and according to head coach Kellen Moore, it has been a tight battle. Does it even matter?
No.
Really, honestly, are either of these guys even a viable long-term solution? Are we seeing like a Desmond Ridder-esque situation play out like the Falcons did where, can we start the hashtag tank for Manning? Is that kind of how we all see this all playing out?
They're in quarterback purgatory. There's just nothing you can do. I don't think the fans, I don't think the division is I wonder who the Saints are going to start. That's really going to change our plans on how we're going to defend this. It's literally doesn't matter. You could be it's Spencer Rattler, it's some 12-year-old off the street. I really don't think anybody cares. It's just that this team is so hosed this year.
Yeah, I know. And we'll talk more about the Saints. I don't want to show our hand because we're going to go down and talk about the NFC South. So it's been a conversation and it's who cares? I think the Saints season is already washed before it's began. So maybe that's a little teaser for later. Gentlemen, we are a Bears podcast. We have said that coming into this season. We are pro Bears. So the Bears finished their preseason games going 2-0-1. However, Brian Johnson still remains fixated on an underperforming Bears offense. It's a quote from BJ himself. He said, offensively, the first two possessions were really sloppy football that has plagued us in and out of camp so far. And unfortunately, that is what we got here tonight. Johnson said after the Bears' 29-27 victory over the Chiefs, there were a number of things that we could have done a better job of. Namely, there were a false start by Loveland, a fumbled misstep on the first snap by DeAndre Swift, and Caleb Williams sacked on a 2nd and 3. He said, it's disappointing to me offensively for sure because I thought we kind of worked our way out of that. I am still learning this group as well. This is our first time on the road, and we're going to find out what kind of road team we were going to be. If the first quarter was any indication, it was not good enough. We have to get better in a hurry. So I share all this with you, gentlemen, because while we're kind of all of the understanding that this is preseason largely, we don't take a lot of stock on it, but, it's football. We're excited for it, and it is a little bit of a teaser of what maybe perhaps is to come for some of these players and teams. Are we looking at this as a big old nothing burger, or should we perhaps reel in our expectations on what we think / thought this Bears team could be coming out of the gate?
I try not, it's hard not to get excited about certain things. I will say, as a team, I think the game was getting out of hand, and I know he's like a head coach now, not just an offensive coach, but I think a lot of what we're looking forward to for this team is like offensively related. I mean, they were down. I mean, they were getting kind of beat up, kind of manhandled by the Chiefs, but I mean, kind of as to be expected. But I think the one encouraging thing for me, if you watch the game or you look at the stats, is both Caleb or Tyson, whichever one of those quarterbacks played, they had very similar statistics. They had very similar like average like depth of pass. They had a similar completion percentage. They were very efficient. And like, that's the things, like if you want to see Ben Johnson's like fingerprints on, is like, I think you're seeing quarterbacks that are sure of themselves. And I think overall, yes, I think there's a lot they need to clean up. But I think the one area that people were most looking forward to is like the development of Caleb Williams. And I think that is largely on schedule. And I would be shocked if you put in on the lie detector test that he wasn't excited about that, because I think he looks more efficient. Doesn't have to look like Caleb Williams at USC where he scrambles around and chucks it 60 yards, because that's just like not recipe for success, but he looks like he's on schedule. I think that's the thing, that if being pro Bears podcast, that's what I would hang my hat on.
Yeah, my whole take on this is it's just a matter of sort of moving the goalposts of the conversation, because if you talk to one person who thinks the Bears are ass, they're going to be really impressed with what they see this season, and they're going to say, wow, this team got a lot better, this is good. But there's a whole nother sect of like the Caleb Williams supporters, or just, I don't know, people who are sort of irrational that think the Bears are like a Super Bowl contender right now, and maybe they're in that conversation, and that would be to me a miracle, but I guess it's possible. I just think for rational NFL fans, you're going to see Caleb Williams look better. You're going to see the offense look better. There are going to be hiccups. There are going to be issues. It's a first-time ever head coach running the ship. But it's going to look better, and it's going to look like you've progressed in the right direction down the train tracks, and that is going to be successful. So I think as long as your expectations are reasonable, you're going to be happy with what this Bears team looks like by the end of the season.
For me, I look at it as accountability and culture. And to me, that's the biggest win out of all of this offseason is, when did Matt Nagy ever say these things? When did Matt Eberflus ever say these things? I think it's a Matt problem the more that I'm thinking about it.
It's a Matt thing.
It has to be. Explains why you don't like Dan. To me, it showcases like culture, and the fact that I agree with you. I think if you put him on a lie detector test, you're probably going to find out that he's actually somewhat content, but also like he's hungry for change, and he's hungry for development, and he wants these players to buy into that. And the fact that he's getting up there and stating these things, I think is good for the team, because we hadn't seen that in years past, and it showed on the field. So I'm here for it. I think this is great for the Bears, and I don't think the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl, but I think, largely the goalpost thing, Scotty, I think you're going to find that the Bears are going to look like a competent team, and that is going to sell promise that for the future. And I think that's really what I see Ben Johnson offering here, is just a huge culture change in a positive direction. That's what I take away from this preseason. And alongside with some of the things that Alan had just mentioned as well, as far as these players look better. These players look like they're actually running an offense versus playing 500. And I think that's going to show on the field as the season begins. So I'm here for it. I want to pivot over to Cam Ward here very quickly. Someone who really hasn't been talked about a lot, really this offseason at all, is the starting rookie quarterback for the Titans, drafted at first overall this last season. In his final preseason game, Ward led a 13-play, 90-yard scoring drive to beat the Vikings 23-13. And, I think a lot of people are writing the Titans off in the AFC South. And, the AFC South in general is kind of like a getting warmer in competition-esque division. Is there any chance in your guys' mind that we see a Commanders-esque resurgence with Ward at the helm, or is this not really going to play into fruition here?
I think the team around him is going to be a problem, and I think it's been a problem for the Titans for some time. I think they've had splashes. Thank the Lord they had Derrick Henry for as long as they did, because I think he made that offense viable, because you couldn't just hang back. Like you had to get up there and stop the run because you knew what was coming at you. And so I think that's the one thing that this team is going to be missing overall. It's just like some playmaker that he can lean on. And my fear for Cam Ward is that he is the playmaker. And when you're a rookie quarterback and you have to be the playmaker, akin to what we were just talking to with Caleb Williams, that presents a lot of problems, because now that quarterback can't rely on anybody necessarily. He's got to kind of go out and make things happen for himself. And I think that's, as talented as he is, that's always a tough first step when you don't have a good team around. Even any quarterback that's coming out that's had immediate success has had a team around him generally that's been at a high caliber that he can go performing.
Yeah, but you look at the Commanders and they hadn't. And the one thing I like about Cam Ward is he seems like a football guy. Like, he seems like a dude that is so committed to his craft and like wanting to be the best version of himself. That's what I've really seen in every clip and everything that's come out from his camp and the Titans side of things, is Cam Ward wants to be good. And obviously, I'll retract that. I don't think that's necessarily the case for some of these players, and which is really crazy to sit here and say, because the dream when you play NFL at Pee Wee football is you go to the NFL, right? But to get to that point, you have to have talent. You have to have a lot of things going your way. But then when you get there, to be good, you have to have that mindset of like, I have to be the best at this, and I need to improve in any way, shape, or form. And throughout the years that we've been doing this show, we could probably sit here and name people, quarterbacks namely, that haven't done that and haven't showcased that. And that's the one thing that I do hang my hat on and get excited for Cam Ward, is like, I'm not expecting the Titans to come out here and go to the playoffs, but I want to see something from him on the field this year that really says he's their franchise guy. And I think just given between the ears, he potentially could be. And that I think should excite Titans fans.
Yeah, definitely. I think Cam Ward is the most complete quarterback out of the class. And he very well should have gone first overall. I think that was correct. The hard part is just the team around him, is always the case when you're drafted in the first round as a quarterback. Like, it's going to be a struggle, but you just have to show that you belong there and that you are willing to grow. And I think the Titans are in a position where they are capable of taking the right steps going forward over the next 5 years or so. And I think as long as you have those reasonable expectations, you can be happy with what this team accomplishes this season.
Well, I mentioned Commander-esque resurgence. There is a commander, or rather a former commander, that I want to touch on here, and that being Brian Robinson. He was traded to the 49ers in exchange for a 6th-round pick, and I will just kick this thing off. I will go on record and state I think this was largely a depth addition, and I'm curious for your guys' thoughts after I read this little blurb that I got here. This 49ers team, especially the running back room, is already struggling with injuries before the season has even started, and now that I think that I think Brian Robinson will see the field sparingly, but if CMC is healthy, I don't really see this as a big, like, huge splash in the pond kind of thing. I think this is largely a depth piece, and I've included the 49ers current running back situation. So they've of course got CMC, who we all know is a glass cannon. When he's out there, he's going to be electric, but he's also made of glass at this point. They have Brian Robinson. They have Isaac Guerrero with a shoulder injury. Jordan James, he had finger surgery and is out a couple weeks. Patrick Taylor, he's on IR for a season-ending injury. Corey Kiner is on IR for an ankle. Mind you, for all of those who don't know who these people are, they're all running backs in the 49ers running back room. In total, there are 9 running backs currently on the 49ers roster, and a large majority of them are on IR and or are injured. So I think this was a depth piece. I don't really see this, for all you fantasy savants out there, is go grab Brian Robinson. He's the savior of this organization. I think they need somebody who can run the ball. And Brian Robinson is a competent running back. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a decent running back, but
this is the exact situation that you and I predicted he would fall into when he got traded. I mean, go let him be a part of a committee, let him be a part of a backfield where he's getting rotated in, and maybe he sees the ball, 7 to 9 times a game, one way or another. And even that might be overestimating it a little bit, depending on if CMC is good to go all season. But this is where he's going to thrive because he's a guy that can grind down football games. He's reliable. He's going to be on the field. Like, this is exactly what they need. So I think it's a great decision on their part.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is, as much as it's a depth thing, we've also seen with this 49ers team.
They need it.
Yeah,
they need something
it.
in the water.
But they roll. Even when players are healthy, they would roll running backs in and out. So I think you're going to see a lot more of Brian Robinson than I think you think at this point in time. Like, it does sound like a depth thing, but they do like to roll running backs in and out, especially as how frequently they use them, which is why we're in this spot. But I think the one thing before I have to head out is that I would still, if you were from fantasy purposes, I would still think Brian Robinson is a hell of a cuff. And I know we don't talk about fantasy a ton, but hell of a cuff. And I think he will actually get a decent amount of playing time. So I think it's
over
worth
Brando.
It's worth a flyer in later rounds. I think so. I think Brian Robinson, I would put him ahead of
I think
Brando.
they're going to split time, but it's irrelevant anyway because CMC is going to be there all year.
He's gonna just.
That's my
Fair.
prediction.
Every other year. That's the trajectory he's on. 1 year he's in, he's great. The next year he burns you, and the last year was the year he burned you.
So that's what the 49ers do too. They're 1 year
True.
they're in the Super Bowl. Next year they're fucking
So they're
terrible.
this
Next
year.
they're in the
This year is
Super
Super Bowl time.
Yeah.
Super Bowl team for the Niners. Love
Has
it.
to be. Has to be. Alan, you are departing early. It was nice to have you here, Little Tyke. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time.
Now that you say Little Tyke again, now I feel like I should take offense to it.
I think that's just what we're going to keep doing. All right. See you, buddy. Jaxson Dart, Scotty. I would like to state there's no bias in what I'm about to say at all whatsoever.
Okay.
Because I definitely did not draft Jaxson Dart in my Dynasty League. I did not label him as my calf commander in training for the aforementioned Dynasty League. The more I see Jaxson Dart, the more I get excited for him. I think, and I'm truly putting my bias aside here, if there was an MVP for the preseason, I really think Jaxson Dart would win it. He went 32 for 47 for 372 yards and 3 touchdowns with 0 interceptions over all 3 of his preseason starts. And there was kind of a cool thing that actually had come out here just this last weekend. The Brian Dable, when they played against the Patriots, it was rumored Brian Dable had turned off Dart's communications in his helmet and let Dart essentially run the offense without play calling input from the coaches. Dable was even asked about this by a reporter, and Dable had said that Dart had called a play that wasn't even in their game plan that resulted in like something like a 60-yard drive that because of the play calling that Dart was doing without the input from the coaches. Am I reading the tea leaves too much here, or is there like a sliver of a chance that Dart could be the Dable savior alongside with the Giants?
I'll just reiterate what I've said in the past, because what you're saying is like a little bit mix of reality versus like fans just getting hyped up for preseason bullshit. But in reality, there is one situation in which Brian Dable keeps his job. There is one situation in which Joe Schoen keeps his job. There is one situation in which these Giants fans don't want to jump off of a bridge. And that is Jaxson Dart looks like he is their quarterback of the future. That's the only situation where all of those things can happen. And in order to do that, he's got to play. So I think this whole, Jaxson Dart's going to sit on the bench all season. I don't think that's the case because I think everybody recognizes this is the hope. Like it doesn't matter how many games you win, you can win 3 games. But if you finish the season going, at least we got a quarterback, that's the only chance that everybody has. So I think that the tea leaves have been strong with Jaxson Dart since the draft, because Brian Dable was like talking very highly of him, like after just their first few meetings, like whatever. I think everybody in the organization recognizes, hey, this guy's got to be our future. Otherwise, we're all going to find a different future with different jobs and different teams. Period.
Yeah, and that hasn't changed. My mentality hasn't changed for that either. I've been on record and will continue to say week 5, the Jaxson Dart era begins for the Giants, and I do largely think that's true. The unfortunate reality is the Giants also have the hardest schedule in the NFL, which is crazy because that just seems not fair for a team that's already in poverty. But I obviously it's preseason, and I'm not trying to buy too high on preseason hype, but he's looked good. He's looked good, and that's the hope that Giants fans need to get instilled with, like you mentioned, as the season starts and continues. Because if not, I agree. I don't think any of these people keep jobs. Let's go to the NFC South, Scotty. Let's start covering the NFC South. It was the last division in the NFC that we had not covered, so I think it's a good time to discuss them. If you do not know who the NFC South teams are, it's the Bucs, Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. So, woof. This division is not a great division. It's not a strong division, but I will read you the Vegas odds, and then we'll kind of go into each team just a little bit here. So the Bucs are favored to win the division at minus 110. The Falcons are in second position at plus 225. Panthers at plus 400, and then we have the Saints finishing it out at plus 1400. The only team with worse odds to win their division are the Browns and the Giants, which are both around plus 3,000. So the Saints are like probably third worst team in the NFL according to Vegas. Let's start with the Bucs. I mean, what is your projections for the Bucs? Obviously, some of the talking points that we can discuss are Liam Cohen is not there any longer, so they have a new offense. Yeah, offensive coordinator. And then, Chris Godwin, he's been on the pup all offseason. He's projected to be out there maybe starting in week 2. And then Mike Evans is still around. Both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are both 32 years old. Mike Evans seems to be healthy. And, Vegas has Bucs winning the division. Are you on that train, or do you have some hesitations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility. I'm taking a much more measured approach than I did last season, which was basically talking shit on Baker Mayfield because I thought Kirk Cousins was going to run the table. Turns out that was stupid. But the way I see the Falcon or the Bucs is Baker's scrappy. They've obviously got talent at the wide receiver position. It's aging. Like, it's just not an ideal situation, but they are in what is probably one of the worst divisions overall in the NFL. And so you just kind of have to be scrappy. And that's why I really think that's sort of shaped the narrative about people like Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker Mayfield's entire career is like he's just this scrappy guy who just kind of, he may not look polished, but he's going to go be the guy who wins the bar fight for you, and you're going to be in games that you shouldn't be in. And that fits this team really, really well. And that's just kind of what they're going to have to do again. I don't see any massive jumps in this division. Obviously, we'll talk about the Falcons next. That's the only other team that you could really bring up. I think that the Bucs probably should still be favored to win, and I really only think there's one other team that's going to be in that conversation, and it's not Bryce Young.
Okay, well then let's talk about it. You have the Falcons at plus 225. The obvious question here is Michael Penix Jr. We saw a small sample size of him last season. Do you believe that he can lead this offense to compete at a high level? And, some of the other things, I hate Kyle Pitts. I've gotten off that train. But I had to throw that in there. And just because you are Kyle Pitts, no matter what are you thinking about the Falcons coming into the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same thing with the Falcons, that they have the talent. They have the talent. It's another year under this coaching staff. Maybe they're going to be a little bit more competent. Michael Penix Jr. is no longer a rookie, so maybe he's going to take a big step forward. And if that happens, this team, because of this division, because of the makeup, might be the best team in the division by far. They could also not be even close and then be down, in third place. So it really is totally up in the air. It's going to depend a lot on whether or not this coaching staff has improved. Number one, the coaching staff has to improve just as a general organization. Number two, we have to see Michael Penix play at a higher level and take those steps forward that you hope to see your quarterbacks take in their second year. And number three, we have to see this defense do something. We've got to have explosive plays on offense, and we actually have to have a pass rush that is capable of creating turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. Those are the three areas that were up in the air for the Falcons last year, and we have to see them addressed. And if they do address them, they might be very well the best team in this division by a long shot.
Do you, reading the tea leaves, is Michael Penix Jr. going to be the guy? Like, I mean, obviously he's the guy for the team, but like, is he going to be the savior of the Falcons organization?
I don't know about the savior of the Falcons. I do think that there's a very good chance the Falcons are better than they were last year, because what we saw last year is, again, because of the division, Kirk Cousins played just kind of okay. Like, he had one game where he threw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. It was electric. And then other games where he threw 3 interceptions, like over and over again. Like, he was just kind of okay, and yet they were still competing for this division by the end of the season. So as long as you're a little bit more consistent, you have a little bit more fluidity, the coaching staff gets everybody kind of on the same page, just a little bit more than that, they're going to be competing for this division. Whether or not they win depends, but they're going to be in the conversation, certainly. And I think it doesn't take much imagination to come to the conclusion that Michael Penix is going to have better command of this team than Kirk Cousins did in his first year, and they're going to look more complete, and they're going to address some of those issues that were a problem in 2024.
My fear is Raheem Morris, and I've been I've gotten some heat, and I have been on record stating that I don't think Raheem Morris is a good coach, and I think that there is a high likelihood in my mind that he does get fired by the end of the season, even though this is technically his second year with the Falcons, because the time bomb is ticking. The Falcons should, in my mind, be the best team bar none in this division because it's a shitty division. I think it's being hindered due to coaching. He is a defensive mind. Their defense was not great last year. There was a lot of questionable things that happened on both sides of the ball last year. And I think that largely was because of Raheem Morris. And so I'm not buying stock that he's a long-term solution for them. I think the talent level is there. I think they just need somebody who can utilize that talent and get the best out of that team. And I don't think Raheem Morris is the guy. The other thing that I kind of want to talk about is just quickly is Kirk Cousins. I mean, what in your mind, what the hell's going on with him? He's under contract for another 3 years. He's riding the bench. He's getting an exorbitant amount of money. You've been on this show before stating that you think that there is a high likelihood that Kirk Cousins is traded by the end of the year. Are you still riding that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to come down to I think the Falcons are willing to get rid of him so long as, they find somebody who wants him. Obviously, the Falcons have made the decision that they want to move on. And the whole Kirk Cousins situation, I think, goes in part, I don't know to what degree someone like Raheem Morris is responsible for these sort of miscues, but all of these miscues, if you put them all together, really leaves you with the impression that the organization is just not all that well run. And I don't know how much of that is coaching versus front office versus ownership, whatever. I don't know the exact chemistry of the concoction here, but there's clearly something that is not quite right. So I understand what you're saying on that front. Kirk Cousins, I think if you have a team that is competing and their quarterback goes down with a season-ending injury, whatever, and they need to make a decision and make it happen, maybe I could see him getting traded. But it's going to be spectacular either way. It's going to be notable whether or not he's riding the bench all season or whether or not he's traded to a new team. It's just going to be kind of weird to watch, and I really feel so bad for the guy because the only reason he came to Atlanta was because he's like, I want to be the guy to end my career. And then, bam, they draft Micah Parsons without telling anybody. And then they just bench him with 4 games left in the regular season when they're still competing for the division. I don't know. Kirk Cousins really seems like he kind of got hosed in this whole thing, and maybe it'll work out fine for the Falcons, but seems like karma, at the very least, is not on their side.
Well, and it was really interesting when he did get signed. I was like, that's a big contract. It's not like pennies. It's not a Sam Darnold-esque contract where, yeah, Sam Darnold's getting paid. It looks really great on paper, but they could move on from him relatively easy and cut a lot of loss there. That's not the case with Kirk Cousins. They paid him to be the guy, and then everything kind of shit hit the fan. And so I think the really unfortunate thing for Kirk as an individual is the fact that his contract is so big that teams are not going to want to pay that price for Kirk Cousins for another 2 to 3 years, given the fact that he is very, very expensive. Now, obviously, if the Falcons eat a lot of that and they kind of are like, yeah, we'll pay for our mistakes. We'll take what we can get for him. And I think that's how this is going to have to play out. The NFL season is getting longer and longer. It is harder and harder for these players to stay healthy for 18 games plus postseason. I think there's a high likelihood that there is going to be an injury, and a team that can compete is going to need a quarterback. The question at hand is how much are the Falcons willing to eat as far as that salary cap for that to happen? And that's the thing that's going to be interesting to play out this season in my mind.
Yeah, and it really seems like if Penix is playing well,
why not?
Eat as much as you can out of it.
Yeah.
Just say, we screwed up, but, we got our guy now. So, all is well that ends well. But it's going to be tough, and they've already had those internal conversations about drafting Penix and, what the fuck are we doing? It's just everyone's confused. Nobody knows which way is up. And they're just kind of hoping it works out. And a great way for it to work out is Penix comes out and looks awesome, and I guess we'll have to see. But I share some of your concerns about just the organization as a whole and my faith that they're doing the right things behind closed doors.
Yeah, I mean, Arthur Smith is a glaring problem that, yeah. Panthers, they're third here in Vegas odds at plus 400. And really the narrative here is, we all know that Bryce Young, he got benched midway through last season for the Red Rocket. And, we really thought that the Young saga was coming to a close for the Panthers. And then he comes back and looks, dare I say, like a completely different quarterback. He looked really good, I thought. It was like, who the hell is this guy? Where was this at? And he looked like a good quarterback. So in your mind, do we see the same Young that we saw the second half of last season? Do you think he might revert back to his old ways? And the other narrative here is the Panthers also spent really high draft capital on Teteroa McMillan to hopefully give Young a true young wide receiver one. What are your expectations of this team coming into the season?
My expectations are exactly where Vegas has them, and that's third in the division. I think Bryce Young looked a lot better. I think there are a lot of good things about their sort of state and where they're at and the steps they're taking, but I still see them as having so far to go. I sort of, when you're looking at these other up-and-coming teams in the NFL, like you think of people like the Commanders, obviously at the top of the list, and then people like the Broncos, maybe like, oh, these are strong young teams, and I sort of put them with the Patriots, sort of like, you're happy with the direction that they're going, and if Bryce Young continues to improve, then you got a lot to be happy with, but I don't think they're going to be really winning anytime soon. And by the way, that's assuming that Bryce Young continues to go, because we have to remember, if you split up his NFL career so far into two halves and you average those out, he's not a good quarterback. So you just have to hope that it was an outlier, that he was really, really bad, and that the second half of last season was like, oh, this is the real Bryce Young. And I'm not really convinced that that's true yet.
Okay. The fourth team here, we have the Saints at plus 1,400. The only notes I have for the Saints is just woof. That's all. That is all I put here. I mean, the Saints I have is one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL. In fact, I think the Saints are the worst team in the NFL, and I have no hopes for them. I have some friends who are Saints fans and have asked me, like, hey, what do you think about the Saints this year? And I'm like, find another team to support this season, because it's the Saints are not going to be it. And it's sad, but it's just the truth. Like, if you look at the Saints, it is a sad display of a big old nothing. Like, that's what it is. You got Chris Olave, who's one hit away from probably being done in the league due to concussions. You have an aging Alvin Kamara, and that's
I can't believe he's still playing.
At a high level.
It seems like we've been talking about Alvin Kamara since we were in middle school. Like, this dude's just been around forever.
Yeah, he's really great. He's the only thing that's great on that team, aside from maybe Chris Olave, if he can stay healthy. Like, this team is so bad. And to be quite honest with you, there are a lot of Kellen Moore truthers out there. I'm not one of them. Maybe. I don't think Kellen Moore is that great of an offensive mind. I don't think he is the savior for this organization. Ever since Sean Payton has left, there has been turnover after turnover at the head coaching role, and I don't think Kellen Moore is the answer either. And the sad reality is even if Kellen Moore was a great offensive mind, which I don't think he is, he doesn't have any tools to play with. He doesn't have any toys in the toy box to get out and really get excited about, because he doesn't have a quarterback. We covered that earlier. Like, the Saints are so abysmally bad. I have them as the worst team in the NFL over the likes of the Giants and the Browns. I think the Saints are the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely right in that conversation. I think you could really, close your eyes and point in a direction at that point and you'll get one, but there's just nothing. They're at the point, this is the lowest of the low when it comes to an NFL franchise, where it's just, you have really nothing to look forward to. We say the only way that Giants fans are going to leave this year happy is knowing that Jaxson Dart is their guy and they've got somebody. You don't really have that, because I don't think anyone expects Tyler Shough or even Rattler to be like a long-term guy. I think that both of them could be in the NFL for a long time, but they're not going to be like your franchise quarterback. And I think everybody pretty much expects that. Now, maybe they prove me wrong, and that'd be great, but I don't anticipate that, and I don't think anybody else does either. So there's just not really anything for you to look forward to. So you almost, as that organization, you have to take this time when you're going to be bad, and you have to get your books right, because that's been the biggest problem with the Saints for the better part of a decade, is that they can't afford to pay anybody because they're so far over their heads when it comes to contracts. So get that shit sorted out. Get rid of your old players. Like, stop. Let's get rid of all the contracts that we have, which probably isn't too many now, but
but they still have a lot of dead cap with those of like Derek Carr and stuff like that.
You got to fix that sort of shit while you're going to be bad anyway. And that really, if you're a hardcore Saints fan, so much so that you're looking at the next few years and you're looking at the books and you're looking at the contracts, maybe that's something you can be excited about, that maybe you're nearing the end of the tunnel where you can see the light of like, hey, at least we're not going to be in debt worse than like the nation of Guam. At least we have that going for us, maybe in the near future.
Yeah, but isn't that sad? Well, yeah. Like, I mean, it's sad. It's a sad existence for them, and I feel for Saints fans. I really do, because as somebody who supports a middling team in the Cardinals, at least like I have some things to get like maybe excited about and hang my hat on. I can't find anything for the Saints at all. Like, I mean, even like Jaxson Dart or like the Browns quarterback situation, like you have some sort of buy-in or narrative to follow your team and be like, hey, like, you know, is Jaxson Dart going to be the guy? Or, hey, like, this is a quarterback competition. It's probably not going to end well for us, but at least I have some entertainment along the way. And it's like, what gets you excited for Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shough? Because it can't be anything. And so it sucks for them, and I feel for them. But how does this division close, Scotty? Like, give me top to bottom how you're looking in the crystal ball here. How does this division end up?
Well, I think I'm going to, Kyle Pitts no matter what, all that jazz. So I think I'm taking Falcons 1. I do think that the Bucs are sort of in a position where, even though you don't have to be spectacular to win this division, it just seems like they can't keep this going for much longer. Just given Baker Mayfield isn't the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, obviously he's a lot of fun, but he's just sort of okay or slightly above average, and your wide receiver weapons are old, and the coaching staff there is still just like, I don't know, everything's just kind of okay. And I really feel like they're not going to be able to just continually win the division forever until the end of time. So I think it's only a matter of time before another team, probably the Falcons, steps in there. So I'm going to go Falcons 1, I'll say Bucs 2, and I'll say Bucs barely edge out the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to be better.
Okay.
But they're not going to be competing for the division. I think they're going to be right there, though, with the Bucs in the division, and I think the Saints might win 3 games.
Okay. I've got the Bucs at number 1. I think that they are getting older. I think they're starting to approach the point of no return. However, they did get Micah Parsons. I'm excited for him. There's been a lot of camp hype about what's going on with him. So I will take the Bucs at number 1. I'm going to take the Panthers at number 2. I'm buying the stock on Bryce Young. I'm buying the stock on an up-and-coming team. I think that the Panthers can do it. Obviously, there is all the question marks that we talked about, but I'm going to buy that ticket on that train. Give me the Panthers at number 2. I will have the Falcons finishing in the 3rd because I don't believe in Raheem Morris. I don't believe in this coaching staff. I don't believe that, given the immense amount of talent, they're going to utilize it the way that they should. And that's why I have the Falcons in 3rd position. It's not because of the team. It's because of the people that are, kind of like what you alluded to earlier, where I don't know if it's the GM. I don't know if it's front office. But I think the coaching staff is a problem. I really do. And so I will put the Falcons in 3rd, and then obviously the Saints at 4th. So, and obviously you can flip. I think this is somewhat of a large crapshoot. I still think the Bucs are the best team in this division. So I'll take the Bucs there. But that's how I have this playing out, and unfortunately we don't have Allen to maybe be the tiebreaker for us and give us a little bit more insight.
I'll say that the Bucs are the most established team in this division for sure. Like, something major is going to have to change in order for that to be different, and so I'm just betting that it just seems like at some point in time the Falcons have to break through. And also, it very well could happen with Bryce Young. Bryce Young maybe could just break through and continue on that stretch and
that's what I'm
utilizing his new weapons. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely within the realm of possibility. So it's sort of like the polar opposite of the NFC North, where it's like, oh, anything can happen because they're all so good. Now it's like, well, they all kind of suck, so I guess we'll see.
No, I think that's a really great way to describe it, because it's a crapshoot in the complete opposite direction. There's such a void of talent in the NFC South that nothing would surprise you as far as who leads the division, and it's the polar opposite for the North. So, we'll see how this plays out. Maybe we'll get Alan's opinions and thoughts, just because I'm genuinely curious to see how he has this one panning out. But that's it, Scotty. That's all the time we have for the show here today. So, all you ladies and gentlemen, all you dirty old nasty freak brainiacs that have been tuning in, we appreciate it, you little tykes. It's been a great time here, Scotty. Are you taking your shirt off?
Slur, dude. No, I got a bug bite right here, and I just realized I think I scratched it open. I'm probably covering everything I own in blood, so it's probably time for me to go.
Yeah, it's probably time we sign off here. All right, let's get the hell out of here, Scotty. I love you, buddy. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out LeatherBrainz.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.